everyone. Today we're going to talk about the simple topic of cash reserve. It's often something I dive into with my clients as I typically find out that they don't have much of one. So I want to go over today a few things. One is understanding the appropriate level of cash reserve, why we want to have a cash reserve, and then lastly, where to keep it. So rule of thumb is having 3 to 6 months worth of spending available for cash reserve, but there's other ways to look at this as well and things to consider. So when would it be appropriate to have a 3 or a 6 month reserve? A 3-month reserve would be appropriate if you're a dual income family, feeling pretty stable in your jobs. The risk there is that maybe one of you would lose your income, but likely not both of you. So just having a 3-month spending reserve would probably be okay. If you're a single income household, it would be more appropriate to then have a 6-month cash reserve in the event that you were to lose your job. Other things to consider are just how stable you feel in your job. Maybe it's a family business, so you're pretty sure dad's not going to lay you off. But if you're within a big corporation, it's a little unclear sometimes as to if there's going to be a reorganization and if you're going to always have that job available to you. So sometimes when I'm looking at a client, especially if they're a young family, I'm looking at some upcoming short-term expenses that may be unanticipated but not unexpected. So let's say you just bought your first home. I'd really suggest taking a good look at all the utilities in the home, the furnace, the water heater, the irrigation system, the AC, anything that's running in that home, and really get a good temperature as to how old these things are. If you see that you have, a 15-year-old water heater, I don't think that it would be unexpected for it to break or need some service, but it would be unanticipated exactly as to when. So once you've come up with that list of all the things that you may be financially responsible for in the short term, I would add that to your cash reserve that should already be somewhere between 3 to 6 months of spending. A final few thoughts as to what to consider for your cash reserve would also be in terms of your goals. So a lot of times when I'm working with clients, a part of their cash flow needs is actually saving towards certain goals, saving toward a 401k plan consistently or an IRA or 529 plan. If at some point you're disabled or not working, you're going to get behind on those goals. So that just means you might want to have a little bit more in your cash reserve to be able to continue the momentum with saving toward those goals, especially if it's something that's timely. So do you have enough in your cash reserve is the question. So let's say you're spending $5,000 a month on average. That means if you're just looking at a 3-month cash reserve, that's at a minimum of $15,000 that you should have in the account and $30,000 for a 6-month reserve. That's not including all the other expenses I was speaking of earlier related to things with your home, car, children, and then also goals. So those are the minimum amounts I would consider. So why is it so important to have a cash reserve? Well, number one, I don't want to see any of my clients have to open a GoFundMe page. As simple as that. So if you're in agreement with that, then maybe we're on the same page. Another reason is that if you're a diligent saver, but you're not necessarily accumulating things in cash, you may have to sell certain investments or pull from accounts that really you don't have access to, which can create tax issues and penalties. So for instance, I have a lot of great clients that are very diligent savers into a 401k plan, but if something like a car accident happens and they need to buy a new car and need a little down payment for that, they don't have access to that 401k account. They're going to be forced to either put a loan against it or withdraw it and pay penalties. So that's not really a great situation, and it's really unfortunate because if they had kind of reallocated how their savings were, they could have built up a cash reserve in addition to continuing the saving to a 401k plan. And finally, where should you put all this cash? Some people really have a hard time thinking of just having, a big balance, something like $30,000 at their local bank account earning nothing or very marginal money. I get that, but at the same time, again, it's really important to have the flexibility and the access to that cash when you need it. I almost wouldn't even recommend things like a CD because, again, sometimes you can actually pay a bigger penalty than you're going to receive in interest if you have to access that sooner than you were thinking. So I would recommend going to something like bankrate.com and checking out money market accounts that are accessible to you, and they're online. So a lot of times they pay a much better return than your local bank because they don't have that brick and mortar expense. You really just have to shop it around. This is something I do for my clients. So if you're not really feeling confident, feel free to ping me. These are things you can use your membership hours for, or I include within a baseline plan. Essentially, you just want to make sure that the cash is accessible. That's the biggest priority. And then second would be to just hopefully get some sort of rate of return on your money. I think that's it for today. Remember to subscribe if you found this helpful. I put out videos every week. And also check out my blog at powwowllc.com. See you next time, guys. Bye.